Welcome to the Spurs News Podcast, your home for all things Tottenham Hotspur. Now, here are your hosts.
Hello everybody and welcome to a new episode of the Spurs News Podcast. I am Sam. Joining me this week in that weird limbo between Christmas and New Year, it's Matt.
Yeah, that is that weird limbo. And like before we started recording, you've kind of mixed it up a little bit, haven't you, by recording in a different room.
Mate,
and that's probably added to your limbo, isn't it?
Oh, this is a very bizarre thing for me. I always record in the same place. I've got a desk set up, my PC, my mic and everything's there. That's my zone. That's where I go. And then today, the PC would not switch on. So, I don't know what's going on with that. That was weird. I was kind of going through all these things in my mind of like, oh no, what's going on? I'm going to try and check just the fuse and the plug.
It will be something simple like that.
Yeah,
really
when
will.
I have time. But so yes, I am on location today. I have got the laptop and I have decided to record from the Spurs News Studio, also known as my living room. So yeah, it's very different for me. It's very odd. I live in like a small cottage, so basically my living room is a window, literally looks straight out into like the path out the front. And if I got like deliveries or anything like that, I see them walk past the window. So I've got this image this morning of basically being sat here with this microphone, this headset on, sat next to my laptop, and someone doing a delivery peering through the window thinking, bloody hell, who the hell does he think he is? Yeah. So this is very bizarre.
You're really setting a scene here, Sam. I like
to paint a picture, yes.
Yeah, paint a picture. If I can sort of imagine it in my mind, I'd imagine you live in a little village like, Postman Pat. That kind of village.
There you go. Yeah.
Have you got cobbled stones out there, and the postman gives you a little wave as he goes past the window?
Well, yes. The postman does give a wave as he goes past the window, normally pointing to where he's left the parcel. And
Okay.
A thumbs up and a kind of get it yourself, you lazy bastard way. Yeah. The best things like before Christmas, and obviously parcels were arriving left, right, and centre. And the thing that I enjoy the most is that my delivery guy, the postman, kind of begins this festive season with a real spring in his step of like, oh, I'm busier, this is great. And by the time it gets to like Christmas Eve, the guy looks like if he sees one more parcel coming to my house, he's actually going to kill me. Yeah,
do you know what? Thinking of that, that's my way of dealing with Elf on the Shelf. To start with, we've got all these really cool ideas. By the 24th, I'm like, if these things were alive, I would have strangled them by now.
Yeah, I honestly don't. See, I was kind of lucky, I think. My daughter was a little bit older when that became a real thing. And so I kind of looked at it and thought, you know what, I don't want to start it now.
No, it killed every lion that I had in December.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from, but whoever invented that deserves a slap.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Because it's like you come up, and it is a genuine thing, like every parent goes, oh, that'd be fun, that'd be nice. But everyone I see, like my Facebook social media, by about the 10th,
yes,
they're like, I have got seriously, my favourite one is a few of my friends put them in quarantine for coming back with a COVID test.
Oh, why didn't I do that?
And like basically bought 10 days of them just being sat in a tub.
I didn't think of that. Do you know?
So basically, all they did was they had an upturned plastic tub, the elf in it, and they just changed day 10 of quarantine, day 9, day 8, and they did that for 10 days. I thought that was genius.
Oh, that really is. Honestly, the amount of days I'll be standing, because like Layla normally wakes up about 7:30, so I'll be standing downstairs at about 6 o'clock, lying completely gone, that I could have had, just scratching my head thinking, what the freaking hell am I going to do with these elves today? And honestly, that was my whole December, I think, until the 24th.
That's certainly how it feels, yeah. It's like, oh no, Christmas is done. That means no more elves.
Yes, exactly. That's the thing. Like, as an adult now, especially with kids, like, I used to look forward to Christmas for presents, but now I just look forward to just getting rid of those elves. That is my Christmas Day joy.
What do you like most about Christmas Day? The dinner, the food, the laughter, the kids opening presents, putting those elves back in the damn box. Oh, I love that. Yeah, I imagine a few people are relating to that right now. But yeah, so I wrote out a little bit of a kind of a schedule for today, a little bit of kind of let's do talky about football. We've actually got a couple of games. So let's open up with the Crystal Palace game. Well, actually, just before we dive into the games, I'd love to get your opinion on this, because it's something that gets discussed in football every year, and has got discussed in football every year since I can remember discussing football, and that's the Christmas schedule in England, where you typically have 2 games in 3 days because of Boxing Day, the 28th, and it's something that, as a fan, I've always absolutely loved the Christmas football schedule. I think it's wonderful. I think Premier League clubs are rich enough that they should have squads and things that are more than capable of doing it. The schedule's the same every year. However, this year, possibly with COVID playing a factor as well, we've seen an inordinate amount of whinging coming from some coaches whose name rhymes with plop. What's your thoughts on it, mate?
Yeah, I think that the proof is in the pudding, and you look at the bigger clubs, and I put us in the bracket of the bigger clubs, and you can't see me doing the air quotes, but if you look at the results, that maybe not the results the last couple of days, so the results of games a couple of days after the first game was played on Boxing Day, and there's weird ones, isn't there? Like Liverpool losing to Leicester, Mo Salah missing a penalty, Chelsea drawing with Brighton yesterday. It's good for the it's good for all the smaller clubs. They're getting good results, but it just shows that it's too short of a window, I think, for if the players were if the Liverpool players, or arguably if we were fit enough against Southampton and the Chelsea players were fit enough, then the results would have gone the way you'd expect it to have gone. So I think from a fitness point of view, and from the players' point of view, and the managers, obviously, like you say with Klopp, I don't think it's right. I think it's too close together. There's a reason why the fixtures happen like normally once a week with a midweek game. You don't get, the season doesn't last 5 months, does it? We don't get a game every 2 or 3 days because the players can't. They need recovery time, don't they?
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that, and I do know what you're saying with it. But I mean, my kind of point of view and my thinking on it is that you see these teams that have had a struggle the last few days, and they seem to be the same teams whose coaches have come out in the press and have condemned it, saying it's bad. And the clubs that have embraced it and have got on with it have managed to pick up results. Because, like you say about the bigger teams and the lesser teams still played. They had the same schedule. So, the fatigue factor works for both clubs. It's a level playing field. And I do know because of COVID some teams had sort of time off, but look at Man United, who had, I think someone said, like 16 days off before their game, and they ended up drawing. And to be honest with you, really should have lost that game. So, fatigue factor cannot be blamed on that. I personally wonder if it's a kind of a mental thing. If your boss, your manager, is saying, this is stupid, we shouldn't be doing this, your brain starts to think, this is stupid, we shouldn't be doing this, and you kind of go into it a little bit not quite as focused as perhaps you normally would be.
Yeah, that could be an element, and as you know, and I discuss this all the time on the podcast. I'm really into sort of the psychological elements and the angles, and you're right. That may be the case. Because I think I said to you after the Southampton game. I'm sure we was all gutted. I mean, we'd have been more gutted if Dyer hadn't saved Sanchez right in the game. I think I would have been sick. I think losing 2-1.
The other way round.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, but with 10 men, I would have just honestly, the pit of my stomach sickness. Yeah. But I think I said after the game that you always get weird results this time of year, and we are seeing weird results. You get these. This is the time of year where you get the weird ones, and it's really shocking ones. Like I say. As much as I can't stand the guy, seeing Mo Salah miss a penalty is a really weird, rare thing. It's like seeing Kane miss a weird,
rare thing. But it's also funny.
Oh, I enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it.
Well, I enjoyed it. Yeah. But yeah, so Crystal Palace then. We obviously played Palace earlier in the season under the Nuno, also known as Nuno Espirito Santo. My daughter calls him the Nuno, which apparently is a throwback to some kids' TV show she liked. But,
I was going to say, it sounds like something you'd call a child's private part.
Whoa! Whoa there! Hello!
That's what my mind goes to.
It was from a show called In the Night Garden, I think. The Nuno and the Ninky Nonk, all these things are like flooding back to me right now. I'll tell you one thing about that show, right? And I know this, I'm going on a tangent again. There was a character called Maka Paka.
Oh,
right?
Maka Paka, yeah, Maka Paka.
And it was my daughter's favourite. And it was like, when she was tiny, she'd say it all the time. To entertain myself whilst watching this show, every time they said Maka Paka, in my head, I went, motherfucker. So, Maka Paka! And I'd be giggling, laughing. And she used to think I loved this show as much as she did. And basically, that was what I was doing. Because any time someone would turn around and say Maka Paka in the show, that would be what I was picturing. So there you go. That's,
do you know, Sam?
An insight into my messed up mind.
I took Seb to the live show of In the Night Garden. That's how much a dedicated parent I am.
Wow, that's impressive.
It was shocking, mate. Absolutely shocking.
I know my sisters, when they were little, went to watch Bananas in Pajamas live. Yeah, that was dark. I don't know quite how my dad survived that. I know for about a week he was like, bananas in pajamas. Yes, I was like, you alright? He's like, no. It is in my brain. Yeah. But anyway, we digress.
Yeah.
So Crystal Palace, we played them with Nuno Espirito Santo as manager. We'd been on a great run at that point. We'd won every game, not conceded a goal. And we got absolutely thumped 3-0. We had a player sent off. Football's kind of beautiful mirror is that we've now got Antonio Conte in charge. We beat them 3-0 and they had a player sent off.
Yeah.
Wonder what odds you'd have gotten, right? At the start of the season, if you'd said to a bookie, okay, Crystal Palace will win the game at Selhurst Park 3-0 and Tottenham will have a player sent off, and it would be the exact reverse at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, 3-0 Spurs and a player sent off. I mean, the odds of that must be astronomical.
Yeah, you would have got some good odds on that.
Yeah.
The power of hindsight, unfortunately.
Mad. Well, yeah, I mean, that's just not a bet anyone would even think to make, is it? I mean, next season we definitely will, but it's a bit late then. But it just...
My brother-in-law was saying that one of his mates has put a bet on Man City to win 6 league games by 5 or more clear goals, and I think they're on 4 at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah, that's.
And he's going to win a few £100.
Yeah.
He thought he could do it with Leicester, but they got a few goals back, didn't they?
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, Leicester, that was bizarre because that game was like going on, and I was watching on, I think it was BT or Sky Sports, but they kept doing the updates on it, going like, oh, it's now 4-0, oh, it's 4-1. The comeback's on, ha ha ha. 4-2, 4-3. I was like, what? Yeah. And then it went 5-3, 6-3.
Yeah, they turned the gears up to third.
Yeah,
didn't they?
Man City suddenly went, oh, all right, then. If you're going to start taking it seriously,
playing again.
We will too. Yeah, that's bizarre. And then Leicester went off and did well the very next game. But yeah, it's a strange old time, like you said. But yeah, we beat Palace 3-0. I mean, I was delighted, to be honest with you. The Crystal Palace defeat stuck with me like a real kind of aggravating thorn that had been there for a little while, so it was nice to exercise that demon a little. Goal scorers Kane, Lucas and Son, who basically when you're attacking 3 all get on the score sheet, I think something's going well. Lucas I thought was absolutely phenomenal in that game. What about yourself?
Yeah, he's great all round game, but I think the highlight, although Kane's finish was fantastic for the first goal, Lucas's goal, it just epitomised, I think, where Conte is trying to get us to.
Yeah, driving in there.
The smallest dude on the pitch, and if you look at that still of when he actually connects with his head,
yeah,
I think he's at least phenomenal. His own body. I think he's about his own body, his own height above himself. He could have stood on his own shoulders, couldn't he? That's how high he'd managed to get.
And the thing I liked about it is the guy's always had a good leap, but his desire to get there and make that his, I think, like you said, really shows where the squad is, really shows what they're driving towards. And the fact that we scored those goals real quick fire, it was like we scored the one and we didn't just do that aggravating Tottenham thing of yay 1-0, here we go. we went straight at them, and then it was 2-0. Being a Tottenham fan, of course, even 2-0 up, I'm a little bit like, oh, come on, guys, make it 7.
Make it 7 just to make me relax. Yeah,
please, just to let me have a little bit of time off. And I think I was chatting to Stefan by message. I was like, oh, I hate this kind of scenario where we're 2-0 up, we're controlling the ball, which we don't do a massive lot. And I was like, I hate it. I think it's this inbuilt Tottenham thing of like, I'm just expecting Palace to now score out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden all the momentum shifted, and as I was saying that, we got a third. I was like, yes, thank you, Lord. So that's just what I was after. So yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm alone in that. I think if you've been a Tottenham fan for a considerable time, like I have, you have this inbuilt kind of self-destruct awareness of like, please don't do it to me again.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. What did you make of Zaha's sending off, by the way, Sam?
Well, yeah, I'm not quite sure where the debate is on this, but I did see quite a lot of debate over it. He got booked twice, and both of them from mere bookings. The one thing I would say in his, not his defence, but the one thing I would say is the first booking, a lot of referees in the Premier League wouldn't have booked him for that. But he has been booked. So do you then put your hands up to another player's face? You don't. I would also add that he was the one who very much got Tanganga sent off in the previous game. And I'm not saying that Davinson Sanchez made sure that he got sent off this time, but if you watch the replay of it, he does smile at him and basically give him a little wave as he leaves the pitch.
It was a bit reminiscent, wasn't it, of the time when our man Lamela got Martial sent off against Man United.
I mean, Lamela just got up and smiled. I mean, Davinson Sanchez did him there. I mean, he literally... I mean, Sanchez went to the ground like he'd been punched. And Sanchez is a big guy who genuinely didn't need to do that, but he made sure he got sent off. Was it Jose said, you have to be intelligent? Yeah.
The dark arts.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, isn't it, where if it happens against you, like, you bastard. But when it's you. And Zaha's a guy that is a bit... I don't know, he gets fired up against us, probably because he still feels he should have joined us those years ago, and I still feel he should have as well.
Whenever I look at Zaha as well, I always think the way he looks with his eyes, like if he was to take cocaine, I think his eyes would pop out of his head, because he looks like he's done a couple of lines already, doesn't he? Yeah. He's got that.
We're making insinuations here.
But he's got that huge stare, hasn't he? Like, he's just like thinking, man, that's one scary dude, But it's the intensity of him. He's got such an intense way, and I think that with him, it's a fine line, isn't it? And that's probably why he's been so successful, probably with Palace, because he kind of lives on that kind of intense edge, and he can do things, but other times it can kind of get him sent off.
Yeah, I mean, there is a certain... I think, whether it's right or wrong, there is a certain aspect of when you're playing for one of the bigger clubs, the microscope is on you, so to speak, and perhaps you can get away with certain things a little bit more. I did see a lot of stuff written up afterwards, like, and it's because of crap like this is the reason why you're still at Palace. It's a little bit disrespectful to Palace stuff like that, which I don't like.
He's a great player. He's a great player, Zaha.
He is, but yeah, to me it's not a debate. He was on a yellow card, and if you're going to be stupid enough to give the referee an opportunity to then send you off, then it's a red card.
Yeah, you can't argue it, can you?
No, I mean, I can't remember. I think they actually went to a referee for his opinion. He basically said, like, you don't give... if you're on a yellow card, you don't do stuff like that because, you're being stupid. You've only got yourself to blame.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'd agree with that. I think that's true. I think he did only have himself to blame.
Yeah.
One of the things that obviously from that game, which I did enjoy, other than obviously the 3 goals, I enjoyed quite a lot. Is I thought we looked quite solid. I know we were up against 10 men for a lot of it, but it was Hugo Lloris's birthday. A clean sheet for his birthday, always very kind. But I thought we looked good defensively. Tanganga played on the left side of the 3 centre backs. What I'm liking is that I'm seeing it that he's not making wholesale changes to the side on a regular basis, but he is changing one or two. So we constantly have consistency in the team, and one or two players are able to slot in and slot out. So we are resting people, and when that happens, I'm not seeing a big drop off. Like in the past, we've almost been really terrified of like, oh no, so and so's missing. Oh no, oh great, so and so's coming in. Oh no, it's going to be a real massive drop. And even if I've looked at the team sheet and thought, oh no, I'm a little bit nervous about that, I've felt it's been quite seamless so far. What about you?
Yeah, it has, and he's made a point, hasn't he, of saying that he's conscious of not wanting to lose the sort of the team identity, if you like.
Yeah.
And I think probably part of that comes from I think our kind of adventures in Europe this year, and he probably saw that a little bit. When you do make wholesale changes,
Yeah.
We lost that game in Europe under his management, didn't we? And it kind of ultimately, I know there was the kind of the thing with the last game, but it cost us. I mean, if we'd have won that game, was it more? It wouldn't have mattered, wouldn't it, with the last game if it had been called off or not?
It was done.
Yeah. So. He's obviously conscious of not making too many changes, but at the same time, and I know obviously I alluded to earlier about the fact that we've got fixtures coming at us, literally every 48 hours sometimes,
Yeah.
So, but you're right. I feel like Tanganga, when he plays his system with those three centre backs, we've got quite a few that fit comfortably, and obviously Dyer seems to be the main man that stays there in the middle of the three.
Very comfortable with it. But also, don't you think that Sanchez looks so much better in a three?
Yeah, he does. He looks really more. I think part of it is because I think with Sanchez, he's more of a football player, isn't he? Sanchez.
Yeah.
He's not an old school centre back. He's like a football playing centre back. And I think to be fair, I know Dyer gets a lot of slack, but Dyer can play a good ball.
Yeah, he really can, and I'd had this conversation a few times with people, and I know I've had it with Dan on this as well. Dyer will misplace a pass which costs us on a regular basis. He will. But the thing that I've noticed more and more, and I will give credit that other people have pointed this out, and then I've looked at it myself, is one of the issues is he's always looking to play the ball, and he's clearly been instructed to do that. Like when you get on the ball, look for a forward pass. The easiest thing Dyer can do sometimes is just lump it forward, and if we lose the ball in their half, that's not on him, he's a defender. But he doesn't. He looks to try and pass the ball so we retain possession, and that's clearly something he wants to do, clearly something he's instructed to do. Our midfielders have got to work harder to be available to him. And the thing I'd say is when Winks is on the pitch, you'll notice that Dyer passes it to Winks more than anybody else, because Winksy will work hard to find space to receive the ball.
Yeah.
There was a goal we conceded recently, and everybody blamed Dyer because he gave the ball away with the pass. The reality is, the two players, Højbjerg and Skip, who were on the pitch, were arguing with each other and looking at each other when Dyer was on the ball. That should never happen. These two should be working every angle possible to create space that either they're being marked so Dyer can bring the ball forward himself, which we've seen him do a lot of times when that happens, or they find space so we can pass the ball to them and then we can take the ball forward. It's not always on the person making the pass if the pass gets... I mean, sometimes it is, obviously, but it's not always. And I do think people need to look at that, because we do see a lot of criticism hammered at him for that. Whereas everything else, he's good in the air, he's good defensively, blocking, he puts his body on the line. All the defensive aspect of it is good. People are critical over what they deem as that kind of part of his game. And I personally think that we need to look at more than just him. Look at what the situation is. Sometimes, of course, it's going to be his error, like every player makes errors with passes. But a lot of the time, and I've really noticed it since I had it pointed out to me, players need to work harder for him ahead of him. You can't just stand there.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but I think it was a Southampton game. I think it was his 300th game. You don't play 300 games for a Premier League team, without being a very good player. And I know he's gone through. I think I can remember when Mourinho first took over, and I think he was just recovered. He just recovered from a quite a serious it was a stomach injury he had, wasn't it? He had like a hurt.
Yeah.
He was
well,
up.
he had appendicitis.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he was very poorly.
And I can remember being at a game, and he just. I think I might have said it at the time. I think Mourinho was, because Mourinho liked him. I don't know if it was the Portuguese connection or whatever, but he was almost like he was trying to play him back, and he looked so out of shape and out of sorts. It was a bit sort of embarrassing at times. You could see that he looked lost almost. But he's been played back, and also as well, he's now, we forget that he played a lot of games with us in midfield as a central defensive midfielder.
He did, yeah.
And he's always said, I'm a centre back. So now he's playing where he wants to play, and now you've got Conte in charge, who, like, as we all know, micromanages players and improves players. Then this will be the best. I think, as long as Conte's at the club for a fair while, this will be his best period of time at Spurs. I think. I think this will be his highlight when he looks back. These few years that are coming up.
Yeah, I think you could be right.
Yeah.
But moving on from the Southampton game, moving on from the Palace game to the Southampton game, we drew the game 1-1. I think it's important that everyone remembers that we took a point away from Southampton, who have lost one home game in I don't know how long. Well, this season they've only lost one home game.
It's mental, isn't it, for a team that's like mid-table, isn't it? That's mental.
Yeah, well, I think there are some places that are difficult to go, and I think their place is a difficult place to go. They make it difficult. The atmosphere is good. I always say Palace on a weeknight is a nightmare place to go.
Yes.
Because of the atmosphere it creates and everything. And I think Southampton generally is a difficult place to go because the top sides have gone there this season and they've not taken away 3 points.
Yeah.
And we've gone there and we've not taken away 3 points. So you've got to respect them. And I think it's something I don't like, but you see it a lot. Like, we should be beating them. I hate that. It's like, no, you don't have any innate right at all to roll up and just destroy a team. Southampton started the game brilliantly and rightly went 1-0 up. One of the things, watching it on Amazon, it aggravates me, is when a commentary team seem to want to imply that, because all they kept talking about was, Southampton are great, Tottenham have been crap. And I'm like, that doesn't always have to be the case. Tottenham can be just not being allowed to play because Southampton have been that good for 10-15 minutes. And once that phase was over, if you like, once Southampton have almost run themselves out a little bit and went 1-0 up, all of a sudden we came into the game and dominated the game.
I wonder, Sam, sometimes, and I know Hoddle's got a connection with Southampton. But really, he's a Spurs man, isn't he? He's a Spurs man through and through.
Yeah.
And it's almost like he's got a case of the old genocitis, where he's trying to overly compensate for not wanting to sound biased towards Spurs, because he was saying things, and I was saying to Seb, and I know it's that kind of. I'm sure every fan of every club turns to their kids and go, look at the commentator. He's always slagging the stuff all the time. But I don't know. I just feel it all the time. It's like the sending off,
bizarre.
And like here we go, and sending off. Talking about the odds of the Crystal Palace, three games, 3 sending offs from the opposing team. But that was it. Dermot Gallagher that come on, and he said that shouldn't have been a red card. The first one was handball or something, And it's like it's constantly, they've been lucky. They're lucky to have got that penalty, that sending off. And
again, it's a situation where the player was booked. Now, was the first booking justified? It's like the same debate as the Zaha thing. He was booked. So if you're carrying a booking and then you go and make that challenge in the box, you're getting sent off.
Yeah, it was such a clumsy tackle, wasn't it?
Well, it's what it. It was a penalty.
Yeah.
No one disputes that. Southampton manager, nobody disputes it. His only dispute was, it was a booking, and should he have had the first booking? It's the thing. He was on a booking. So if you go and do that, then regardless of whether you thought it was right or wrong, you know that you have been booked. So if you go and do something else that's going to get you a booking, you're walking. So like the Zaha thing, it's you've made that mistake. That is on you. That is not whether you're right or wrong with the first booking. You've then gone and got yourself booked the second time.
And ironically as well, Sam. Ironically, it probably was that way of thinking for us. Which is why he took off Reggie for Doherty,
exactly.
Which is probably part of the reason why we didn't win the game. Because I personally think, I know hindsight's a fantastic thing, but I think if Reggie had still been on that pitch, hadn't got that yellow card in the first half, I think we would have won that game.
I think he'd have scored the chance that Doherty missed, because he has a left foot, whereas Doherty went with it with his right. But it's hindsight's, whatever. But I mean, I at half time was very much calling for him to be taken off because referees like to level things up, and the crowd were on Reguilon's back. He'd made a couple of challenges which were badly timed, and the referee clearly noted him, booked him. So referee in his mind, if he'd gone in on anyone else, was going to send him off. I was delighted when he subbed him, because I was like, great, he spotted it as well, And the thing is with a sub like that, it's like, you know what, kid, that referee's got it in for you. Sit down. I ain't going to send you back out there. The player himself's going to be thinking, yeah, you're probably right. You're not going to be too bothered about being subbed in that. I think the thing that surprised me the most is he made the change and brought Doherty on. For me, you could have moved Davies out there and let Davies maraud a bit, naturally left-footed, and brought on Rodon or someone to sit in the centre three. I think he's obviously trying to get the best out of the players he's got. Doherty is definitely a wing-back. He is an aerial presence, which he tried to establish. I'm still not seeing it happening for him in a Tottenham shirt. I'm really not. And also he brought on Brian Gill, who was on the right hand side and was doing great. But it was like you had a right footer on the left with the left wing back, and you had a left footer right wing. It was kind of like almost just swap them for a bit,
Yeah, sure.
We're completely dominating because Southampton have just basically, we're in the last 10 minutes. Southampton have gone, right, come on, we're down to 10 men. It will hopefully get a mad counter attack or something, but we're basically going to sit behind the ball. Now we can be hypercritical and stuff like that, and we can go on and on about the fact we didn't win the game when against 10 men we possibly should, but to me, I'm still kind of delighted to see the sheer amount of opportunities we were creating, because it was 10 men behind the ball, but we were opening them up, we were creating chances. Unfortunately, they were falling to the wrong people, if that makes sense. Doherty went through twice, I think, really, and I was hoping for a better result than what we got a few times. I'm like, on a different day that goes in, or a different day, we're up. Obviously the big one is the goal that was ruled out for offside, which kind of brings us to a VAR debate again. I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this, because I watched it live, and watching it live, I thought he was off. And then when they showed the replay, I was like, oh no, that guy's playing him on.
Yeah, so I thought,
I was like, oh, brilliant. So I think I put in our chat, I was like, oh, I think he's offside. And then when they showed it, I was like, oh no, brilliant, he isn't. Well done, Harry. You timed your run there. But then they drew their little lines, and it would appear that 4 or 5 of his hairs of his head were offside. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I'm kind of like, technology is supposed to make it very black and white, but I'm still not sure how you can give that offside, especially when you watch the games the following day, and you see another one which looks offside to the naked eye, looks very offside, but the lines are drawn in a different place, and you're like, hang on a minute, this doesn't make sense.
See, this is the thing as well, Sam, that I've not mentioned before, but it occurred to me with that one, is that it was probably, like you say, a couple of hairs on his head. I mean, it was that much, wasn't it? It was ridiculous.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah,
so
it wasn't a lot at all.
When they freeze frame it, is it from the exact moment the lever from the footballer's foot boot touches the football? I mean, if
Well,
we're going to go that extreme,
no. You're actually, yeah. It's a great point, because the letter of the law is, from the moment the pass is played. Well, does that mean the minute his boots touched it? Does that mean the minute you've seen him? Does the ball have to be clearly away from his foot? Is there got to be space? The reality is no. What they're doing is they're freeze framing it at various points that they think's that, because they're not going to that degree, because they're trying to turn the decisions around quickly. By the way, I'm glad they're trying to turn them around quickly. I don't want to wait 10 minutes for an offside decision. Nobody does. But at the same time, you have to surely create a grey area. A kind of like, when it is this close, like there's, when they put that lines across the screen, I'd almost like them to triple the thickness of that line and go, right, this is the grey area, which basically means if you're within that grey area, it's a goal.
Yeah.
Because what we're saying is, with all the technology and everything that we have here, that is too close for us to be making these judgments, because at the moment it's going the other way. And I always remember as a kid with linesmen and people like that, or assistant referees, it was always, well, the advantage goes to the attacking team. If I'm not sure, if I'm like, it's that close, then I keep my flag down, because the advantage should go to the attacking team. And as a spectacle for fans, as a spectacle for people watching in the stadium, watching in the stands, you want goals.
Yeah,
you don't want I mean, don't get me wrong, if it happens and it's you celebrate like a loon. Like, yes, we got away with that one. But that's for me. That for me would create a kind of a great, like in cricket with the technology, you've got umpires call. And don't get me wrong, I know it still creates a debate. But for me, you just do a line and you make the line thicker and you say this is the thickness of what we call, we cannot possibly call that accurately in that space. So as long as they look onside into that, then we're going to give it as a goal.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like you say, with cricket, they call there's that ruling sometimes, isn't there, where the umpire's giving it out or giving it not out, and the ball strikes the wickets, but because the ball under the seam has struck the wicket, so you're looking at only half the ball has struck the wicket, it's given as umpire's call. So technically, the letter of the law, that should be given out because the ball struck the wicket. But because it's that thick grey area line you're saying, they give it as umpire's call, don't they? They say, look, it struck the wickets, but it was that close that we're going to give it umpire's call. And that's what they should do. Like you say, that it makes sense to do that with football. And don't get me wrong, I know, like you say, we're pissed off because Kane, just let a goal, and if it was the other way around, we'd be going, oh, thank God that grey area isn't there. But I think in general, they've got to do something, because it, like I've just said, if you're going to go into the minutiae of someone's arm hairs making you offside, then go into the minutiae of when the ball's played, and that's not happening, is it?
No, and I think what I don't understand is why that isn't being discussed, or why that isn't a kind of a bigger thing about the technology. Technology is in football now. You're not going to get rid of it. So what you want to try and do is get it to the point where it's helpful and not just continuing the debate. Or because the VAR was supposed to end this. It was supposed to be like, oh, well, he was offside, clearly. And there have been plenty of times that to the naked eye I thought something was a goal, and then the VAR, I'm like, oh, wow, no,
well
offside.
Yeah.
Whoa, not even close, this one, And that's fine, and that's what it's there for, and I'm all for that. I'm all for that being used, because whether that goes against you sometimes, it will balance out. There are times. I mean, the Man City things spring to mind straight away.
Yeah,
Man City in the Champions League. I mean, that to this day is still bananas to me that got ruled out. I'm still over the moon about it, but it did. But without VAR, we lose that night. And then replays would show that perhaps we shouldn't have. And imagine how bitter and horrible we'd be feeling about that. Similar to how we feel about a certain handball in the final, giving a bloody penalty, but never mind.
Do you know, I was going to ask you as well, what did you make of the goal that was ruled out by Doherty when their keeper, Fraser Forster, they said it was a foul on him? I think that, I know keepers are protected, but I mean, and again, it's my bias. I
No,
appreciate that. But if he'd had gone down,
no,
he didn't even go down, did he?
To be honest with you, mate, it's a goalkeeping error and it's an own goal.
Yeah.
And he has absolutely got away with it. And I think everybody who watched the replay thinks he absolutely got away with it. The thing with Doherty, and I think the replay... See, this is the thing that frustrates me again about VAR. See, the referee in real time, and don't get me wrong, I don't want to be critical because it happens fast. All he sees is Doherty go running in, the ball becoming loose and going into the net. His assumption, because it has to be an assumption there, is that physical contact has been made with the keeper. Therefore, like we've said, keepers are protected species, and therefore it's a free kick. The VAR, though, have then watched the replay, which shows that Doherty's eyes on the ball, and he jumps, and the keeper jumps across him. So it's not a case of him going into the keeper goes into him. He doesn't touch his arms, the keeper simply drops the ball into his net. So why doesn't VAR go to the referee then? Oh, no, wait, stop, go look at this.
Have a look at this, yeah.
Because they keep going on, it's a clear and obvious error. I'm sorry, but that is a clear and obvious error. But also, clear and obvious error is a bullshit excuse. It just really is, just to allow referees to make errors. Because it's ridiculous. I think Antonio Conte's post-match was just perfect, because they were trying to drive home this kind of controversy, like, perhaps you should have won that game 3-1, and he just said, no, the officials are doing their best. And that was it. He just killed that whole thing for them. They were trying to spark some controversy, get some headlines, and he's like, no, and he's right, because I don't think, despite on some games me questioning it, but I don't think there's any officials out there who are corrupt, deliberately trying to get things wrong. And it just frustrates me, because the third match official, the guy watching it, fourth match official, sorry, the guy watching it on that replay will know that should be a goal. He will know that it's an own goal. So why can't he tell the referee that, because of this clear and obvious thing, they don't want to overrule each other. They don't want to go, oh mate, no, that's an error there, come back. Because then they're like, the next game he's officiating, he's going to turn around and go, yeah, well, you made a mistake there as well, you're crap, you are.
Yeah, do you know what? It's probably a case of, like you say, not wanting to undermine...
do you know? Ref.
Yeah, a good example for me I can think of myself is like, so I'm at the moment I work in London at a train station, and I've not been in like management or team leader role before, and I've been doing this job for the year, and I've been trying to sort of learn as I go along. And there was a time when one of my staff members was basically arguing with a passenger and about to penalty fair them because they didn't have a ticket. So I've come along, I've walked in and tried to alleviate the situation, and what I thought, because the passenger was like, I want their name, and in my mind I was thinking probably the best thing to do would be to calm it down. So look, you haven't got a ticket, but let's get you through and go and buy you one. Even though they were in the wrong, I was thinking I want to protect my staff member and not have a complaint against them. But my staff member didn't talk to me for about 2 or 3 days, and I couldn't understand why, because I thought I was trying to protect them. But then it occurred to me that I'd undermined them. They were dealing with something, they'd made a decision. I come along and just completely undermine them and just do something completely different. And now I see that, I understand it, and I think it's probably quite similar with referees, where look, you're the guy on the pitch making the decisions. If I come along and say you're wrong, I've undermined you. And whereas my situation happened with no one else watching, this situation will happen with millions of people watching you.
Exactly. So, and I think it's right. It's human nature as well. But the referees are such a they're attacked constantly. Whether you could referee a game perfectly, absolutely perfect, the opposition fans to the team that lost will hate you because they've lost. So referees are attacked, vitriolically attacked. So they're bound to want to defend each other. They're bound to see themselves as like a club, and it's us against the world. We need to look after each other. I don't know how you deal with that. I don't know how that gets changed. You're almost like you want to create a kind of specialist fourth official group that are separate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, these are specialist referees and they are TV refs.
Yes.
And literally all they do is talk to I know you'll create a kind of us and them scenario then, but at least if you did that, you won't have this protecting each other's stuff.
Yeah.
You will at least have the them saying, on-field ref, sir, you need to review this on the monitor. And they won't feel like, hopefully they won't feel like they're being attacked. They'll feel like they're being helped. And that's the thing. It's a human nature thing. I'd like to think that if I was in that situation and I missed it, I'd like the fact that someone said, oh no, you need to look at this actually a different angle. And a lot of it's got to be how it's presented even, isn't it? You know, if I imagine some of them are abrasive bar stewards coming in over the earpiece, you've ballsed up then, you need to look at it, sure. You're immediately going to feel like, what?
Yeah.
But if someone comes on and goes, I think you need to look at a different angle to that because I've just watched 4 replays.
Yeah,
and you're not going to feel like you've made a mistake. Then you're going to feel like, oh well, I obviously couldn't see it.
That makes sense, Sam. To have the people, like you say, not as referees or as officials, just as people, you almost just call themselves like monitor operatives.
Yeah.
So they're people just looking at it, and they're looking at it coldly and thinking.
Yeah.
That possibly you look at it, and like you say, they're not going to go over the radio and say change your decision. It's like probably you might just want to have a look at this.
Yeah. Now
it's on camera in slow.
I'm always a big believer that all sports should learn from other sports. The thing about the technology is technology has been used in rugby for quite a long time. At the moment, there's this weird thing going on with it, but that's a side note. But what they have always done in rugby is, you should take a look at this.
Yeah.
You know, or you should look at this. And so what they do in rugby now is they stick it up on the big screen. I don't think that would work in football. And I don't think it's a good idea in football. Fans in rugby are typically hammered drunk and don't really care what's going on by this point. Football fans, if they watch a replay of something 10 to 15 times while the referee tries to make his mind up, might burn the stadium down.
Yeah.
So I don't think that would work. But going across to a monitor, because, you know, stopping the game and going, right, I've been asked to review this. The question is, how many times in a game would you tolerate that happening? And, you know, is it key decisions? You know, because there are stuff that happens in a game that the VAR just won't touch. And I often think to myself, well, why? You know, you've just seen a player get taken out off the ball. And I saw one the other day, actually. The fourth official notified the ref. So the fourth official's on the touchline. He's watched something happen off the ball. The referee's not there. So he's got straight on the microphone to him and said, hey, you know, this has happened. And he's given it. And he's literally given it, saying, no, the fourth official's given it. And the referee's going, the coach for the opposition team's going mental at this fourth official. And he's like, no, go away. I saw it with my own eyes. I'm not going to ignore it.
That's what they're there for, to an extent,
exactly.
aren't they?
I'd like that more. I mean, the fourth official basically seems to be like a glorified cheerleader holding up. You know, like the woman that walks out in boxing, hold up how many rounds it is in a bikini. Starting to feel like the fourth official is basically that guy holding up the board for how many minutes are in the added time. It's ridiculous.
And to get abuse from managers when the things aren't going their way.
Yeah, like, please stand back in your technical area. I mean, you're a qualified Premier League level referee. Is that really what you should be doing?
Yeah, you're right.
No, please stand back in the little painted box. Yes, I understand you're unhappy about that decision. However, there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah,
Go and get back in your box. I mean, it's just, what is that about? But anyway, that's a bit of a sidebar, I know. So we've talked about VAR. That's always a hot button topic that everybody enjoys talking about. I think we will end the podcast this week because this is the final show of 2021. Talking about what comes next.
I thought you say quiz then, Sam. Sorry.
No. We did that for the Christmas special. I'm not doing that again. We got the January transfer window. I am in absolute two minds over the January transfer window. And I'll tell you, and let me explain to you where my brain is, and then you can tell me if you which way you think we're going to go.
Okay.
So Antonio Conte is in charge. We have released via various financial statements and stuff like that, and various quite detailed press articles have shown Tottenham are in a very, very strong financial position. Yes, the stadium has debt, but with the stadium open and running and going to be doing events, it is more than covering that. That's, the events the stadium has booked pays the stadium debt. So the club can operate purely from what the club generates on match days will cover, will go to the football side, which is what the plan always was. So that sort of it. I don't want to say forget the debt, but you can forget it in terms of footballing matters. Tottenham Hotspur PLC has a massive stadium debt. Tottenham Hotspur, the football club, if you like, is operating and is in a very, very strong financial position. Everything therefore points to the fact, especially with the way Antonio's got us, actually there is a possibility of top 4 this season, and none of us would have predicted that, I don't think. I don't think even the higher-ups at the club could have predicted we'd get back into the Champions League this year, but it is possible. It's right there within our grasp. Everything therefore points towards the correct business done in January could make a massive impact on us as a club and could really, really kick us forward. So every logical part of me, every article that's written I completely agree with, says that the club will back this manager and go for it. Because let's face it, the manager made it pretty clear that if he doesn't get backed, he will let everybody know it. He's done it at previous clubs. He has been more than clear. So it just, everything, that all makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You see what I mean? It all makes perfect sense. We've even got the agent of a striker in Italy, Fiorentina, a guy I can't pronounce, but it's a phenomenal striker, literally releasing a press statement saying the best club for his client would be Tottenham. But will Tottenham spend that money that's needed to get him? I don't know. But he would work brilliantly with Harry Kane. He'd work brilliantly learning from it. Literally this guy has done a come and get me plea. And he's phenomenal, this guy. You sign him and all of a sudden we have to be taken very seriously. So it's all out, it's all there. It all makes perfect sense. The money's there, the manager's there, the squad definitely needs improvement. Everybody knows that. So why is it, Matt, that, and I think I know the answer to this, why is it I'm not expecting us to do anything?
Yeah, I think a big part of it, like we've discussed, is that he's improving the players we've got, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like, he's improving them, and look, I think that the midfield. I know people get on Winks and Dele's case, don't they? They get on his case quite a lot, right? I still feel like so the way I'd like to see it is that I'd like to see how much it'd improve them come the summer.
Yeah.
And if they're still at a level where they're like, look, even working under Conte for how many months it's been now, for almost the whole season, he hasn't got the best out of these players. So it's clearly nothing Conte can do. Right, but it's a weird one for me because I think a couple of players in the right positions would be fantastic for us in January.
I agree,
but I don't want us to buy a lot. I don't want us to. Not that clubs tend to buy a lot of players in January anyway.
No.
But I don't want us to because
I
you look at the signings we've made in the summer, right? I think Romero, unfortunately, he's had an injury, but this guy is going to be phenomenal. I think as a centre back for us.
Good news on that. He's recovering really well.
Oh, wow!
I think they think he's about 2 weeks ahead of where they thought he'd be.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I think it's just my opinion, Sam. I appreciate this, but I think he's going to be one of the best centre backs in the Premier League.
Yeah, he got named. So basically, like the South American football, so Brazil, Chile, Argentina, everything like that. Every year they name a team, a bit like FIFA do, UEFA do, of the team of the year. So they name a side of all of those nations. Basically, when you look at it on paper, it's like, wow, what a team that is. He got voted best defender in the tournament,
wow,
the Copa America, and he got named as star player for the 11 the select 11.
There you go. So with all that being
Yeah.
said, and also with the quote Sonny made recently that he hates playing against him in training because how good he is, right? Even
Yeah.
that, you can see the few games he played, he's settling into the squad, isn't he? He's settling into
He
the
is,
Premier League.
yeah.
He's settling in.
Yeah.
He's going to be a phenomenal centre back. He's going to be a mainstay. He potentially could be the guy that's going to end up helping us win whatever we win, hopefully under Conte.
Yeah.
But he needs to settle in a bit like with Brian Gill. The other signings we made. These players, they need to bed in, and when they bed in, then they become, they're settled and everything with the Premier League. So I think if we was to buy, I don't know, for example, say 4 players. It's not going to instantly help us until the summer. Whereas he's been working.
I don't see, even if we were, because to me, I don't see signing that many players in January is ever a good thing, because you don't have a pre-season. Do you know what I mean? You don't have that time to bed in. For me, in January, it's less about quantity, more about quality. So if we signed 2 players in January, like for me, my dream scenario is a right wing back of real quality that will push Emerson Royale on, and Doherty can go.
Yeah.
And a striker, because I think that although Kane has now scored 3 in 3, you must be delighted. There's now a chance you might win that bet. Still think you're reaching, but there's a
couple of
chance.
hat tricks
You've
away,
at least
Sam,
got a chance now. Yeah. I just think that guy seems to enjoy working under Conte.
Yep.
Seems to enjoy the direction that is going. But he's also just done yet another interview. Like, every time I'm close to forgiving that bastard, he said something else. And he says now about, his mind hasn't really changed. The club still needs to match his ambition. It's kind of a well-timed thing. If I'm going to be positive for a minute, he has been very complimentary about Conte. He's been very complimentary about how he feels about the team and how much his fitness has improved already, which has surprised him. So clearly he's happy with the methods and things that's going on there. The club almost need to show ambition in this window for him. Hugo Lloris, from the 1st of January, so just a couple of days, can talk to clubs. He can sign a pre-contract agreement to leave. How we've allowed that to happen, I don't know. I don't get what this plan is. I mean, Hugo Lloris has been phenomenal for us, and he is our captain. Whether behind the scenes Hugo has said, do you know what, I'd like to go back to playing France for a couple of years or something. I mean, we don't know. We don't know if that's the case. But it doesn't seem logical to me that the club haven't done all they can to give him a new deal. But yeah, from the 1st of January, Hugo, I mean, it's everywhere. Lille, 2 other teams in France I've said publicly, the minute the 1st of January, like midnight, they're going to be on the phone to his agent. So
Sure.
The guy's going to have options. And of course, once he has those options, it becomes even harder to agree a deal, because he can leave for free, which means his contract offers from these clubs are going to be a damn sight higher than what they would be if he was commanding a transfer fee. I think he's been in the form of his life.
Oh, absolutely.
He's been amazing.
He completely. And do you know? And that's the thing. That's what I'm. I know I keep banging on about it, and people are fed up of hearing me say it. But Conte is a man manager. He micromanages players, and you can see the improvement. Like with Lloris. I mean, do you remember there was a time, probably towards the end of Pochettino's tenure, where he was making so many bad decisions, and we were talking on the podcast almost on a weekly basis about the bad decisions he was making. It seems at the moment every decision he makes is bang on. Like Southampton, the ball got knocked over the top, and I'm like, oh, here we go. Suddenly Lloris comes out of nowhere and takes the guy on, and then passes to Dyer. So
I know. What was that about?
He's so confident. He's pulling off. He's in the form of his life, and I think it is down to Conte and his coaches and how they're just working on every single individual player.
I think Lloris as well was a lot of people when they were getting critical of Lloris, and I'm guilty of this as well. Same as with the Dyer thing, you have to also look at what's going on around them. We had when Lloris was phenomenal for us and everything like that. He had Vertonghen and Alderweireld. When they were phenomenal, they had Wanyama in front of it. Do you see what I mean by this? It's like when Wanyama went, all of a sudden our central defenders didn't look as good.
Yeah.
And when they didn't look as good, all of a sudden Hugo was making mistakes.
Yeah, sure.
do you see what I mean? It's like a real knock-on effect. And also at that team, Eriksen, for all the kind of creative brilliance that guy brings, Eriksen also used to press from the front, and Dele at that point as well. They would run, defend, they would press like loons at the front, and Kane was at that point. So the whole team pressed as a unit, pressed and defended from the front, and all of a sudden, as that stopped, it like cascaded, going backwards. Like Wanyama then went. Then all of a sudden, the Belgian duos all of a sudden looked old. I mean,
sure.
all they'd done was aged a year, but all of a sudden they look old, and Lloris was making mistakes. Where now Lloris looks fantastic again, and I think a lot of that's down to the fact that Conte has clearly worked with the defenders, the system on what they do. I hate set pieces against us. Like I dread them. I feel like we're going to concede every time. But Southampton must have hammered us with set pieces in that game. And to be honest with you, 99% of them caused us no problems.
Yeah.
They did get a goal off a second ball. By the way, Ward-Prowse, still the hill I'm going to die on. I'd love for us to sign him.
I'd love him. I'd love him to come to Spurs.
His set piece delivery alone would justify an inclusion in a team. But anyway, so yeah, the January window for me, I don't think we need to go big in terms of we need to replace 8 players. I don't think we need to do that. I know Dan, for example, on the podcast is constantly, here's my list of everyone who needs to go. And I'm like, yeah, alright, I can understand why you're saying that, but I just don't think in the real world, in Football Manager and FIFA and stuff like that, yeah, you chop and change every window because it's part of the fun of the game. You're chopping and changing, wheeling and dealing. You're like Harry Redknapp, right? Hey. But when it comes down to real life, you chop and change 8 players in any window and the side's all over the place because it's too much. We made some big changes in the summer, players leaving who've been at the club a long time, and players that like came in, like you said, and there's still a transitional period going on. Like, for example, is Bryan Gill right now an upgrade on Lamela? I'd say no, not right now. Mm-hmm. But he is best part of a decade younger. His upside is phenomenal, and if we can develop that, and I'm damn sure Conte can, then next season, this season after, season after, season after, it is an upgrade. It is definitely a way to go. And we needed to do that. We needed to refresh the squad. There were some players, like Lamela, loved the guy, but he'd only play so many games a season. I'm at that point now with Lo Celso, I can see so much talent and ability in that football player, but the guy has missed 50 games in like 2 seasons so far through injury. And I said this jokingly in our chat, but I'm starting to feel it. It feels like we pay this guy's wages so he can train with us and then go and play for Argentina.
Yeah, you're right.
It's like from international window to international window, he seems to be out injured, and then he goes to their squad, plays really well, which I think gets it even worse in my mind. It's like, where's that guy?
Yeah.
Why don't I see that in a Tottenham shirt? He just cannot seem to stay fit for us. So let him go. Let him go back to Spain. Perhaps he needs to be in warm weather. Do you know what I mean? Perhaps that's what it is. Let him go back to Spain. Let him go back to South America. Just sell the guy because it has not worked.
Yeah, you're right.
And he is right now taking up wages, taking up a squad place where you want someone, a Ward-Prowse, someone who's going to come in and contribute and be fit and be available. But yeah, I mean that's sort of getting into a bit of minutiae. But for me, the January transfer window, if we made 2 signings but they were of real quality, I would be over the moon.
Yeah, me too.
We sign a striker of real quality, and I'm talking about spending 60 to 80 million on a striker because that's real quality. If you spend 40 million on a striker now, that's kind of par. You spend below that, and you're taking a chance. Do you see my point? I know these are phenomenal figures, But that's the reality.
You've only got to look at Vinicius. I mean, they wanted 45 million for him. I mean, he's a decent
No.
striker, but he's not going to.
It's not. That's like, to me, it's like, what? I mean, don't get me wrong, mate. I think transfer fees are ridiculous. I'm just saying it as it is in this market. You spend 60 to 80 million on a striker, you are signing someone of quality, and you're making a statement. Because you're making a statement not just to the fans, to other clubs. You're making a statement to the squad, which is, we are now going to sign upgrades in positions, not players that we hope will one day be good. We are signing a guy who has proven it. You know, you sign this guy from Italy, Fiorentina, you spend that money on him, you get him. That is a guy who is outscoring everyone in Serie A for last season and so far this season. Serie A is one of the best defensive tactical leagues in the world. If you're scoring goals there, you will likely score goals in England.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And you look at him physically, every attribute, he'll need a little bit of time to settle, but he will get goals. But also, imagine the fire that I'd like under Kane.
Yeah, completely.
You know, because he's the sort of guy you can tell has that anger in him, and he needs that again. Like, when he burst through, he was angry that Adebayor and Soldado were ahead of him. You know, he was like an angry guy coming on, wanting to prove a point, scoring in the Europa League, constantly banging on the door. Look, I'm scoring. You put me on, I scored, but let me have a go in the Premier League. And he took it by storm. And since then, we've signed strikers and stuff, and although they've not done anything, I swear having them there made him better.
Yeah, of course.
Like, Vincent Janssen never got a game, and when he did, everyone was like, oh, he's not. All he was guilty of is he wasn't Harry Kane.
Yeah, sure.
He was a good number 9. Llorente came in and did a great job, but was still not, banging them away for fun. Well, you're not going to when you're not starting every game. That's just not going to happen. But I swear, having those players there in the squad, being available for a manager to pick, made Kane make it so he could not be dropped.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
He kind of was like, "Whoa, no way!" I'm the guy here. You do not come in, like, especially Llorente. Llorente arrived with like a CV to die for. Just banged away the goals at Swansea for fun in the Premier League. So Kane must have looked at that and gone like, "Whoa, what? You want to rest me? You want to rotate me? No,
ain't happening."
No, not happening. Had one of his best seasons, and I know he drove himself to the point he kept going down injured, and perhaps older, wiser, he isn't going to do that this time, but I don't know, there's something about me that thinks you sign a guy like that, he'll come in and Kane will think, right, okay, you're going to spend 70 odd million on a striker, are you?
And like you say, it's a statement, isn't it? It's a statement. It's massive,
because it show everyone that, like, all right, we're planning for now and we're planning for the future. Because if Harry in the summer turns around again and goes, look, I want to go, I'm never signing a new contract, I'm gone, then we've brought a striker in and bedded him in for 6 months.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? We're not going to have to start someone cold. You can go, all right, Harry, this is the fee. If someone pays that, off you go.
Makes perfect sense.
And he'll know that. This is such a stupid psychological thing, but I believe it's true. Is you never want to be with someone more than when you realise they don't want you anymore, or they don't need you.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, Harry was in this position of like, leaving Tottenham is going to be really difficult. No one wants me to leave. If all of a sudden the attitude is, well, hang on, what do you mean you've got someone new? Well, what do you mean? Hang on, I'm still the boy. Hang on.
Yeah.
It's such a weird thing, but I swear it's true, and I swear it'd work. hopefully, Harry Kane's not listening to this, but yeah. But I just swear that would have an impact psychologically. I think it would, and I think showing the ambition, the club, and that way, if the club do turn around to him and go, Harry, I know what happened last summer, but you can see that with this manager, with the signings, we want to win stuff. Come on, let's do you a new deal. Come on, kid.
Yeah,
and in that deal, we'll add a clause in that, if we've not won anything in 2 more years, then you can leave for 50 million or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
He'll be X amount of years old. We got him for nothing. 50 million quid for Harry Kane is a bargain for anybody, and for us, it's like, well, it's 50 million more than what we would have got if he just run his contract down.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's almost like, let's do that. He'll then sign it, and all of a sudden, everything atmosphere-wise around the club's like buoyant, and we'll then go on and win everything for a couple of years. See? So I've got it all mapped out, mate.
Just need to. Have you got Conte's number?
Yeah, I'll just drop him a quick text. Every message I send him starts with "Hey, oh no, it doesn't." So there we go. January transfer window from me then is quality over quantity. I look at the side and I'm like, defenders, I'm okay with. I think he's doing a great job with them. Could we upgrade? Of course we could. Should we in January? I don't know. I don't think so. The fullbacks on the left side, Sessegnon, Reguilon, Davis's cover, I'm happy. On the right side, I think we need to add someone. I think Doherty it has not worked. Yeah. I think there'll be a few Prem teams who would take him.
Oh, completely,
I think we could sell him. I think we'd probably balance out as well, but if we could add someone there with real quality, I think it would make a massive difference, because I think Emerson Royale as well is still settling, but you're starting to see with Conte's management him improve game on game. I think he's had a few games recently where I've looked at it and I've gone, against Liverpool for example, I looked at it and went, oh man, he had a really rough game. But then I watched him the next game and I was like, nah, let's see, there it is. That you can see that he's learnt from past things, because he was up against Palace and Zaha was like his debut against him. What a nightmare debut for a fullback in another country. Like, oh great, here you go. He's like this league's version of Janino, just running at you constantly. Have fun. But he basically, I never thought he did that badly, but everyone says he got destroyed. I'm like, I don't think he did. I just think he definitely lost the battle, but I don't think he was destroyed. This game, just stood up the whole time, didn't commit to the ground, just stood up the whole time, used his pace to stay with them the whole time and closed them down constantly. And just in doing that, and you can tell that has been coached, you can tell that someone has taken in the one side and gone, don't go to ground. If you stay on your feet constantly and just stay in front of him, he has to get past you or he has to pass backwards. He can't do it. He will constantly try and beat you, and if you stay on your feet, he won't. Yeah. And he did. Mm-hmm. He did it the whole time. And like Zaha got so frustrated, he got himself sent off.
Yeah. He had a good game.
But anyway, I think if we do that, and I think if we get a striker everywhere else, people can talk about a creative midfielder. Granted, if a phenomenal creative midfielder is available, great. I don't see an abundance of them in existence right now. Yeah. But we need to create using our wing backs. We need to create there. I think Reguilon can do it. I think Sessegnon can do it. I think Emerson Royale can do it. Doherty cannot. He just doesn't appear to be there. So if we add that and we add a striker, I'm happy. I'll be a happy boy.
Yeah, me too, mate. I think that's wise words.
But there we go. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is our podcast. That is the final one of 2021, mate. I mean, that's another. Basically, we're in the pandemic years, 2020, 2021.
The crazy years.
I really hope when we record this, like the end of 2022, and we sit down and record it, we don't have to think about it anymore.
No, I know.
Wouldn't that be nice? Everyone has flashed forward to that thought of where having to think, I'm going to go see my great auntie so-and-so, I better do a test. I mean, when did that become part of our freaking lives?
We'll all be on about a 10th booster jab, won't we, by this time next year?
Hey, if we're lucky! But anyway, a big thank you to everybody for listening. I hope you have a very happy and a very safe new year. This podcast keeps rolling. The games are coming thick and fast in January. We have 3 games against Chelsea in January. 2 in the League Cup, 1 in the league, 1 home, 2 away. 1 home, 2 away. So it's going to be crazy. If we get results in those, I'll be over the moon.
Plus we've got the North London derby, haven't we, as well?
Oh yeah, we got to play them Barsters. Now, we lost to them 3-1. If we can do like we did with Palace and beat them 3-1 this time, I'll be very happy.
Me too.
Hopefully Anthony Conte is really focusing in on that, because our record in London derbies under the Nuno was appalling.
Just don't worry about the other 20 games in January. Just focus on that one.
Just smash the crap out of them, please. I mean, because at the moment we got the games in hand. If we beat them as well, I'm going to be really happy.
Fantastic.
Really grind them into the dirt, please.
Fantastic.
But anyway, a big thank you to everybody for listening again. A big thank you to all the Christmas wishes we had. I've got a few emails I've not replied to yet, so apologies, I will get to that. Everyone stay safe, have a happy new year, and we'll speak to you next year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you for listening to the Spurs News Podcast. We hope that you enjoyed the show. Stay up to date with all things Tottenham. Follow us on social media. All links are in the podcast description.